Now we talked about value, and there are some painters that feel that if you get the value right, that the color will be right, and you really don't have to worry very much about the color. For me, I often misjudge the value in the shadows. I often get them too dark, and this is, all you have to do is use your value finder and see, what the real values are in the shadows. Another common problem is that we'll often misjudge values if they're very warm or very cool. A very cool color usually looks darker. A very warm color will look lighter. If you get your hue right, if you get your value right, and you get your chroma or saturation right, you're well on your way to getting the color right for that particular spot that you're applying on your canvas. Now here's the painting that I'm going to be correcting, and you can see the values here are pretty nice. They relate fairly well together. But when I get here, it's sort of reversed. This part of the trail or the road is darker and the grass is lighter. So here this is lighter and this is darker. So I need to correct that. So I want to figure out what value they are. And amazingly enough, it's about a 3, which is a little bit lighter than I thought. Hue is basically the color family of the paint. For example, these are both blues, but you can clearly see that this hue, this radiant turquoise, has a different value than the indanthrone blue. These two colors, the Indian red on the left and the Hansa yellow medium on the right, they're both the same hue, but you can see that their values are quite different. Now this orange here is transparent earth orange, very warm earthy color, and this red, Naphtol scarlet, they have the same hue, that is, they're the same color family, an orangey red, but they have very different values. This is quite deep and this one's a little bit lighter. Now the other aspect of color is saturation, sometimes called intensity or chroma. I prefer saturation. It's just about how saturated, how bright the color is. This color is very dark in the tube, but if I add a little bit of light to it, the saturation will increase up to a certain point, but then when I add more white to it, the saturation will decrease. Now this blue here, this radiant turquoise, which I believe is just a phthalo blue with some white at a 7 value, and you can see sometimes I'll mark my tubes with a value on it so I can just grab them if I want to use it really quickly. This has a lower saturation because it has so much white in it. Now this transparent earth orange has a lower saturation, and you might think of this as the color's been sort of neutralized, so it has lower saturation. Anytime you add a complementary color, it lowers the saturation. Now if I added some purple to this yellow, that would lower the saturation to the point where I could get it to go brown or maybe even completely neutral. Now this indanthrone blue, to me, looks very dark, so I don't regard it as full chroma or full saturation. Now when I add a little bit of white to it, that brings up the saturation to my eye. So that's starting to look fully saturated. Now if I continue to add white beyond this point of saturation, I'd have to say it's losing saturation. I have a little bit of naphtol red in there. Now this is an orangey red, so as I add it to this blue, it sort of lowers the saturation down quite a bit, actually. And I do need to lower the saturation, so there. That's getting to be, a little more brownish looking, so that's about right. Just oil up the canvas with some G-gel. Now one thing's obvious is that when you put down a stroke, you can clearly see if it's too light or the chroma's too high or what have you, and that obviously is way too high chroma. What I did to get the hue right was I added some phthalo blue to the mixture, and then lowered the value quite a bit by adding complementary color. I'm adding just little touches of almost pure white and pure phthalo blue, and that obviously is going to push the chrome up quite a bit.